What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Mariah and Steph. Steph, good to see you. It's been a long while. Normally we exaggerate and say it's been a while and it's only been a week, but it's really been a while this time. Happy Two Goat Friday. How are you doing?
Happy Two Goat Friday. Yeah, you said what's better than a Two Goat Thursday? Well, it's a Two Goat Friday. So hope you had a good 4th and had some fun, and yeah, ready to get back into the swing of things. It's almost camp time. It's like 9 days away now.
It's crazy that, like we always talk about, oh, it's so long till football gets here, all off season, right? And now it's like already, okay, we're back in this. How was your 4th? How was your trip to the Bay? How was all that?
It was good. It was good to see, family, good to see fireworks, and yeah, had a great time, get to recharge a little bit, and I guess I'll be out there in a couple weeks. So
there you go. Chat, what's up? Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's had a great week. The weekend's here. If you guys, it's freaking hot. It's hot. So hot here. Like I can't even, oh my God. It's like frying my last brain cells that I have left. Like we're in bad shape over here with the heat, but I hope everybody's keeping cool, keeping hydrated, all that good stuff. Throwback first in the door. Appreciate you, sir, as always. Don, what's up? Rob, see you all. Daniel Barry, Miss Debbie. Good to see you, Miss Debbie. Hope you're doing well. Debster, everybody out there, hope everybody's great. We appreciate everybody that comes through, that watches on replay. We appreciate you all. So Steph, it's the off season. It's not crazy amounts of stuff to talk about. Luckily, George Kittle went on the Rich Eisen show. So, he gave us some stuff to talk about there. Obviously, we can't go a show without talking about Ayuk around here. And it's funny because when I was getting ready for this show, I was thinking about, because I just watched when he went on the pivot. I just watched that 2 days ago. I hadn't watched it this whole time.
Why'd you wait so long?
Because I didn't want to watch it and then do a show like 2 weeks later and forget everything that I wanted to talk about or how I felt about it or all that. So I just waited till it was time for me to be able to talk about it. But obviously I saw what people are putting out there and, the different stuff. But as I'm getting ready for this show today and, I'm thinking about Brandon Ayuk and what he said on the pivot where he's talking about like something like that. He's taken a back seat to, this person and that person and this person. And now like you turn on the TV, people are talking about him. You turn on go to the internet, people are talking about him. Here they're talking about him. Here. He's everywhere, right? So I'm thinking about that as I'm getting ready for the show and looking for my Brandon Ayuk stuff and whatnot. And literally clip after clip after clip after clip. And I'm just like, man, like he was not bullshitting. Like everybody is talking about Brandon Ayuk. So, we're going to follow right in suit, of course. But so I have a bunch of different, little clips from a bunch of different people, what they had to say, the last week or so about the Brandon Ayuk situation. But let's start with George Kittle, since, I have a lot of little things that he had to say, and not just about Brandon Ayuk, but we'll start there. So he was on the Rich Eisen show, like I said, and I thought I had originally just saved, I just screenshot the clip so I can read it to you guys, right? But when I was listening to the actual interview with Rich Eisen, and he goes into detail about, like they start talking about I won't say detail, but they started talking about the Brandon Ayuk situation. And he said something that I found very interesting that was not a part of this original clip. So I'm like, let me get the video ready and just play this little clip for you guys so we can talk about it. Because normally we don't hear too much about the players, sharing their thoughts on, how the contract situation is or whatnot. And we know that after Kittle's contract situation, that he was one of the ones that were vocal and came out and said like the situation was shit, right? Like he hated it, it was terrible. So let me put this. I already got it queued up. So let me just add here. Then we'll get Steph's thoughts on it. All right. Here we go. He had a lot of good stuff to say about Purdy as well. I liked it. All right.
You must get a ton of people like, is Ayuk going to be there?
Oh.
What do you say?
Well, I would say, I think if you look at, my career being a 49er and where like most of the contracts have gone, like I didn't get signed till like the second week of training camp. Debo was pretty late.
Bosa was late too.
Bosa was the first week of the season. I was like, that's just how business is done out there. And like, I'm not in the meetings. Like I have no idea.
Right.
I actually go out of my way to not talk to anybody going through contract negotiations. So when people ask me questions, I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. But like, I'm not concerned about it. Ayuk's a phenomenal football player who's a big part of our offense. And he's like one of the most complete receivers that like I've ever played with. So I'm going to assume that Ayuk's going to be on our team by the time the season starts.
All right. So.
All right. What are your thoughts, Steph, when you hear that clip from George Kittle?
My thought is that he's just like us, for real, because that's kind of our assumption throughout all this too. That it's like we know how long these things usually take. And while it might be frustrating, we see it's frustrating for the players as well. It's just the way that the 49ers do things. And so I think all of this is kind of par for the course, and we still all expect that something is going to get done around the beginning of training camp, right? Like I've been predicting like the week before training camp, we're almost there, right? So I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I still think something's going to get done before the season starts.
Yeah. Like, it makes it like they are just like us, because when you go back, going back to that pivot interview with Ayuk, and he talks about like I tried to get a deal done before all these other wide receivers signed, right? He's like, I was staying in the Bay, like pretty much like I got my suit ready to go in and sign, like waiting around. And like that made me feel, first of all, so bad for him, because it's like he's waiting around, reminds me like waiting around like a little puppy, and they ain't even throwing you a no freaking bone. And then he's like, but they waited, and this person signed, and this person signed, and this person signed. So, well, the market is the market. I'm like, why do they do this? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what is the benefit? Like in the 49ers eyes, what is the benefit of them always waiting to the very last freaking minute, when you have seen year after year after year that it hurts the freaking team? It hurts the team, because that star player that you're trying to freaking sign and you wait to the last minute ends up having a shit year, because they're not there training with the team. They're not doing this. Bosa wasn't in fucking training camp, like all this stuff. And then what happens? So it's like, why do they do this? And the same thing, people get paid more and more and more. So the market goes up and up and up. It's like, what is the benefit of waiting to the last minute?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to see the benefit of it all. I think for a few years now, we've all kind of questioned it. And usually I'm pretty good at seeing things from like the team's perspective and saying to myself, this is why they do this. I can't really find an answer for you on this one. Like, it's just one that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Clearly there is a reason that they like to do it this way. I can't think of why. So it's really difficult. Like I said, it is frustrating as well, but maybe Parag is a procrastinator, you know, and when it's time to lock in, he's just like, let's get this done. But yeah, I mean, to hear that Brandon Ayuk wanted to get something done sooner, and the way that he kind of made it seem is almost like he would have been fine with a lesser price than 26 million at that time, because the market just hadn't been set that way yet. Like, that's what it sounded like to me. He didn't say those words, but that's my assumption. So yeah, I mean, at this point, Brandon Ayuk's probably going to get paid more than that, I would imagine. And it's because they waited. So yeah, I have a hard time seeing what the benefit for the team is at that point. You also mentioned, you know, players who have to go through these negotiations, and players who obviously wait till they're signed to attend practices with the team. Like, yeah, you lose that chemistry a little bit. I mean, I remember, like, obviously Brock Purdy and Deebo Samuel, or not Deebo Samuel, it was Jimmy Garoppolo at that time, had some chemistry, but I remember it took them like the 2 weeks, the whole, almost like the full 2 weeks of training camp, maybe even after that, to really get that chemistry back. And like, you know, you lose that a little bit if you're not working with the guys like every practice or like often enough. So I kind of expect the same to happen with Ayuk and Brock. I mean, Brock's a better quarterback than Jimmy, but still, I think it's going to take some time to get into the swing of things. And so, you know, you also mentioned that kind of sets up their season, in the season that they could have. And then it could impact how the player feels about their season as well. So yeah, there's so many reasons to not like the way that they do things. And I would love if they just were open and said like, hey, this is why we do it. I know they'll never do that, but yeah, I have a hard time like seeing the vision on this one.
Yeah, like I try, like you said, you know, like you try to see things from, you know, different point of views, and just don't, you know, jump to you know, like crazy. But it's like, so like for years now, like literal years, I've thought about this. Like, what could they possibly be? Because every sign points to this isn't a good idea to make our players wait till the very first. And yet the next season comes along and here we are. And it's like, I keep wanting to think, okay, they'll learn from their mistakes. They saw how this went, right? And there's no way they're going to do that again this season. Well, and then they do it. And so like, I'm thinking, okay, we just saw what happened with Bosa just last season, right? Like, you go from being a defensive player of the year to whatever, you know, it wasn't enough to teach them. So, you know, like you said, who knows what Parag's doing? Maybe he's on vacation for freaking the last 4 months. Who really knows? But like, this shit's crazy. All right, we'll come back to Kittle in a bit. Let's get Juice's thoughts on the situation. He sat down with Matt Mayoko at a golf tournament and had these thoughts to say. He said, I totally see it from both sides. I support Ayuk as a friend and as a teammate to try and get whatever he thinks he deserves and what he wants and what is going to make him the most comfortable going forward. I really do think they will get it done with the Niners, because he wants to be a Niner. They want him to be a Niner. And those are the two most important things. When you have that want on both sides, I think it eventually will get it done. And, you know, like him saying Ayuk wants to be a Niner, like that was, I mean, there were some parts of that pivot interview that was like, come on, but like, you know why he's doing it and why he's saying it. That when he spoke on the 49ers talking about like, I want to be here, you know, and like, even at one point when, you know, the guys that are interviewing him, one of them's like trying to say something like, oh, well, I forget what it was, but talking about like his situation in a new place or whatever. And he's like, wait, you know, like, I'm in the perfect situation for me. Mm-hmm. I have the perfect back for me. Like, you know, but the money is not like that. That's what's not, you know, letting it work out. Like, basically it's not because I don't want to be here. Like, this is where I want to be. And, you know, like that, obviously me being the Brandon Ayuk fan that I am, kind of like, because I told you guys, like, there was a minute, like a couple weeks ago, where I was starting to think like, okay, he's gone. Like, I had been so confident that they're going to sign him up to a point, and it was just like, it was like a rough couple weeks with all this stuff coming out, and I'm like, okay, maybe he's not going to be here. But after listening to that pivot interview, like, it actually comforted me a little, because I knew the tricks and the stuff that he was trying to say, but when he actually spoke from the heart, it lets you know that this is where he wants to be.
That's exactly the same sense that I got as well. Like, I actually came away watching that feeling more optimistic about it, but also knowing that, you know, clearly they're on two different sides right now. They're still like far apart, but it's pretty much what you said. As long as you have both sides that want to be with each other, that want to make this work, that's like half the battle right there. And the rest is just figuring out working out the kinks with the money and all that. But to me, that comes secondary as far as importance goes. They have the intention of, being together for a long time. So that's why I'm confident too that this gets done.
Yeah. One last thing on Juice, and we'll go back to BA, but he talked a little bit about when the 49ers came to him and asked him to take a pay cut. And like I said, like, we don't really get to hear players talk too much like about this side of things. So like, I thought him going into this was like a pretty, different perspective than what we get to hear usually. He says, when asked, and this was in the same Matt Mayoko interview, he says, honestly, it hurt when GM John Lynch came to me and asked. I wasn't necessarily expecting it, and I think it's natural for anybody that it kind of hurts your ego. It hurts your heart a little bit. I do understand that it's a business, but I do feel like I'm as valuable as what I was expected to get paid. And it says, he was slated to earn $5.75 million in base salary this year with a cap hit of 7.6. His salary was reduced to $1.21 million with a cap hit of 3.6. It says, all that said, there definitely was a process that we had to go through, and I had to come to terms with it and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, though, I really, truly wanted to be a Niner. This is where I wanted to be. I absolutely love it here. I still love John and Kyle, still have great relationships with them. I think this is the best team in the league, and I think we have the best chance to win a Super Bowl. So this is where I want to be. This is where my roots are. I have a home here. So we got it done, and I'm back with the Niners. And so I'm happy. There are no hard feelings. And then it talked about how even with that pay cut, it kept him a little bit ahead of the next fullback underneath of him. So it kept him still as the highest paid fullback. And he said that about the importance of that. He said, quite honestly, that was important to me. That was something that went into the negotiations that, all right, we can figure this out and take a cut, but I still need to be the highest paid. No knocks on other fullbacks in the league, but I am the best fullback in the league, and I feel that way. I genuinely believe that, and I think other people tell you that. And so I thought it was important that they pay reflected that. So I'm happy that I'm still the highest paid, and I felt I deserve that. What are your thoughts on what Juice had to say about that pay cut?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. That at the very least, he still needed to be the highest paid fullback. And I think his emotions toward it and feeling just a little maybe hurt at first is a natural response, right? Especially because I do feel that he's very valuable to the team and what he does for them. So I'm glad that he didn't take it like too personally. I think we've seen how those conversations can go from either side. Like we've seen Eric Armstead, choosing himself in that situation, which, you can't fault a player for. And then Juice just kind of looking at it from the standpoint of, I'm comfortable here. Like, it seems like that was the biggest motivating factor
Right.
for him. I'm comfortable. Not just I'm comfortable, but I love it here, you know, and he has his whole life here. Obviously loves, you know, his life in the Bay Area and what they've kind of built here. So, yeah, I think that's important as well for players, and so it could go either way, right? And I wouldn't fault any player for doing either one of those things. So just at the end of the day, doing what's right for them. Clearly for Juice, he felt like that was the right thing for him. And yeah, I'm glad at least like the 49ers still kept him as the highest paid fullback, because absolutely he deserves to be that.
Right. I couldn't imagine, like, obviously it's different money and different terms and all this shit, right? But I couldn't imagine being at your job for, how long's he been with us now? 7 years, or how long's Kyle been here? 8 years,
Yeah,
whatever.
7. That'd be 7.
Like, being at your job that long, and then all of a sudden your boss is coming to you like, I need to see you after lunch. Like, you're coming in, like thinking maybe, oh, finally I'm gonna get a raise, and you sit down like, so I know you're the best at what you do. The best. Like in Vegas, like you're the best at what you do in the entire casino industry, but I'm gonna need you to take a pay cut.
Right. Like, how does that even make sense, right?
Yeah. Like, that's pretty crazy. No, I think it's good. Your internet.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Maybe it's me.
Like,
I know when I go to share something, my internet cuts out. So
I've been having some issues with it as of late again. So I just want to be sure.
Seems fine. All right, let me share this clip. This was, where is it? Just had it. Now where did it go? Damn it. Oh my god. Well, once I find the clip, it's an NFL. Oh, here we go. I'm like, dang. Disappeared. I got like 30 different tabs open. That's why. All right. So this clip is from Jordan Schultz on the Herd podcast. You know what's crazy? I just realized today when I'm going to write the notes for the show and writing down like this info was found on the Herd podcast, yada yada. And I go to write Colin Cowherd's name, right? And it just clicked to me why the show is called The Herd. I never understood why the hell the name The Herd. Coward. And finally, as I'm writing out his name, I'm like, oh, duh. No shit.
It's okay.
Blonde moment, just whatever, you guys. Okay. All right. So this is what they had to say on the Brandon Ayuk situation.
If you look at Brock,
hold on, let me make this bigger here.
If you look at Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk, to your point as well, Ayuk has really been his top receiver, not named Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Deebo's tremendous, but Ayuk is that traditional X receiver. And if you go back to week 1 last year, Purdy's coming off the elbow surgery. Who does he target against Pittsburgh? 8 targets, 8 catches, 129 yards, 2 tutties for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
NFC Championship. They're down 17 to Detroit. Ayuk make that circus catch, brings them back. Ultimately, they go to the Super Bowl. Maybe it's not Justin Jefferson type of money, Colin, but ultimately, I believe San Francisco wants Ayuk there long term. I think Ayuk wants to be there, and I ultimately believe not only will he, but he deserves to get that type of money. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown, you see Tyreek Hill in there, somewhere along those lines. Yeah. Big time money for a big time player.
Yeah, no, there's no question.
If you look at Brock Purdy.
All right, so that was that one. Let me play one more clip for you, and I'll get your thoughts on both of them. This other one is what these two.
Brandon Ayuk is getting practice film of. Well, hold on. First of all, it's not like Brandon Ayuk is getting practice film of the Commanders. First of all, you can't do that.
I would hope.
Second of all, it's not happening. It sounds more likely here. FaceTime with Jaden Daniels. Practice film came up, took a little screenshot, boom, posted it. And there's your storyline. Look, Brandon Ayuk, who is an awesome receiver awaiting payday.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have assumed that, Brandon Ayuk wouldn't step on the field without a new deal, but I really don't know how long he can do that, right? Like, just financially, it's just not smart to hold out, right? So yes, I think he would probably hold out in camp, but it'd be hard to do it beyond that. And even in camp, he'd be getting, fined for every practice that he misses. So he could do it. I mean, but at some point he would have to report whether he has the deal or not, I think. Yeah, it's just risky in my opinion to hold out like full season without a deal.
Yeah. Like I really hope that it don't come to that. Like, man, that's gonna be so sucky. Like, I just don't want to have to fucking be dealing with that bullshit. Like, get the man signed, or if you guys are absolutely can't freaking figure it out, then trade him. Like, do something. Like that little meme with the stick person, like, do something. That's it. I'm gonna post that to them every single day.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I want a resolution to all this. Is pretty much like what I've been saying for the last few weeks now. It's like I just want something to get done. I just want to know what's going to happen here, and like just stop dragging this on. Like, what's the point of this at this point?
That's where I'm at with it too. All right, let's go back to George Kittle and get off the Brandon Ayuk situation. So I know that you were recently watching Receiver. Did you finish the whole thing? Have you watched it all? Where are you at?
No, I'm on episode 3. Okay, as in I've only watched the first 2 episodes.
Oh, okay. I haven't even watched one, but I'll get to it. But George Kittle, he obviously, talked about that on Rich Eisen's show. And he said that he actually turned down the show when they first came to him. And he said, I was like, probably, absolutely not. Kittle said, yeah, absolutely not. This was my thinking behind it. I had not watched Quarterback. I did not watch it at all. And so it was like, it seems like you added a bunch of cameras. I don't want to upset the football gods. Football is a living, breathing organism. It's got its own shit to it. Excuse my language. I didn't want to piss anything off. It's like adding a spotlight, adding a look at me type of thing. And then it goes on to say how Claire, Kittle's wife, had watched Quarterback and loved how, you got to see like them at home with their wives and, different things like that normally, aren't a part of things. Mm-hmm. So he said, and remind me, because I have thoughts on the whole Claire situation. Claire had watched Quarterback and she loved the show, specifically how it showed off Pat and Brittany's relationship, Kirk Cousins and his wife, Julie, how it showed off their relationship. And then she made me watch a couple of episodes and I was like, oh, I mean, this is awesome. The content that you get to see behind the closed doors, what you get to see with what they do at home. I was really fond of that. And then she said also, look, this is something that we're going to have it in 10 years. You can show your kids this. And I was like, that's pretty fair point. I like that. He said then that he reached out to Nick Mullins because Nick Mullins was there in Minnesota when Kirk Cousins was filming the Quarterback, right? So he says, well, I trust Nick Mullins. He's my guy. If it's good enough for Nick, it's good enough for me. And so I thought it was pretty cool. Claire, though, this whole thing, I'm like, was this because if Kittle, like I could see Kittle totally against it, right? Like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to play football, yada, yada. And then he goes home and talks to Claire. And then Claire's thinking like, well, this could be a business opportunity for me to get my name more out there, whatever, like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, like Corey in the comments says Sounds like Claire was thinking like a business
Yeah.
person, saw a good opportunity to build the Kittle family brand. But is there anything wrong with that? Like, I
No,
mean,
No,
there,
that's smart because
yeah,
I didn't watch all of Quarterback yet, but the first couple episodes that I did see were the ones like it seemed like it was more focused on Kirk Cousins at that point.
yeah,
And so, seeing his wife and whatever, and she's like them both are just, different, whatever. But like, it seems like she's like the complete opposite of Claire. Like she wanted to be on there as least as possible, like different,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, Claire, on the other hand, is like, like I can really build our brand off of this. What do you mean you're not doing it? Like, get your ass back in there and tell them, yes, we're doing this. And he said that he reached out to that when he talked to Kyle about it too, that Kyle was actually down for it. So I thought
That's
was
the
cool.
crazy part.
I
That's
was
the crazy
wondering like how, especially with two players on it, like I was wondering like when because George says he decided that he was going to be on it first before Debo. So he goes to Kyle first and breaks it like, hey, this is, yada, yada. And Kyle's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But George told him like we decide what access that they're going to have. So they're not getting access to all this if we're not comfortable with that. Like they can have what access I say, so that makes it like a huge difference, I think. But I was thinking, what's Kyle's thoughts then when he's like, okay, one player, okay, we can do this. And then all of a sudden Debo's like, Kyle, I'm going to be on the show receivers. Like, he's like, oh shit. Like, what did we start? Like, he's probably thinking Ayuk's next.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
I mean, I think it's awesome. I'm actually a little surprised that Kittle, would have turned it down to begin with because, like I feel like he does like cameras. He's just a very silly person. Anytime there is a camera in front of him, he's always doing something silly and showing out a little bit. So I feel like he would have loved that. I wonder if his initial thought was, gee, I wonder what my head coach would think about this. Because like I would have thought like Kyle hates. So if like my boss, like if I knew my boss wouldn't be cool with an idea, I'd probably just be like, no, like I'd be like scared to ask kind of thing. So I don't know if that had anything to do with that. I'm just thinking from my standpoint, how I would probably look at it. And I was surprised that, Kyle was so open to it. At the same time though, I think it's, I think that part that they can choose what gets seen and what doesn't is, a big deal, obviously, that Kyle was probably, okay, cool. And also I know that the 49ers videographers got to film some of that stuff. So it wasn't like a third party or like, it wasn't like random people you've never seen before in the building from the NFL, films group coming in. They film the games like they always do and that kind of footage because they're always there at games and at the stadiums. But I think like that insider stuff that was like filmed at practices or maybe, well, I think what was filmed inside their home was someone from NFL Films, but just like the practice stuff and in-house stuff, I think that in-house as in the 49ers facility, I think that was all filmed by the 49ers videographers. So, which probably made Kyle feel comfortable too.
Yeah, I agree. So Kittle was asked about Purdy. And I thought this was funny because this shows you like how much these big names out there that get paid all this money to talk about football, right? That there's no way somebody can watch all 32 teams, every game they play. Like you just and have a wife, a family, kids, whatever, right? Like, come on. So like they don't know as much about specific teams as somebody that's specifically covering that team, for example. But I thought this was clearly tells you how much like I like Rich. Like he's probably one of my favorite ones out there. But for him, he asked Kittle like about Purdy and Purdy's size, like as in bulking up, and that he looks bigger. Like all of a sudden, like it's just he just all of a sudden came out this summer and was buff. Like this guy has had quads the size of a Quadzilla since we drafted him as a rookie. Like I'm not understanding. Like we all talked about this. Like this was a topic of conversation. And this guy is like, oh, I noticed Purdy is looking a little bulked up there. And Kittle's like, yeah, he's been that way since he was a rookie. Like, but I thought it was cool because, you know, you guys know I'm a nerd, so I'm into Pokemon. And Kittle had compared when he's asked about Purdy's, you know, being buff. He compared it to the Pokemon evolution and said Purdy is like the first step of the Pokemon evolution. And then so his quads then evolve into CMC's quads. So he's the second step of the evolution. And then the quads then turn into Nick Bosa's quads.
It's a final form.
The final step. You're the boss quads at that spot. So I thought that was freaking hilarious that he's explaining this to Rich, who probably has no fucking clue what he's talking about, right? About Pokemon, right? So I thought that was funny. But Kittle goes on to say, and he spoke from like a good while on Purdy, because I was actually going to play the clip and then he just kept on talking and talking and talking. I was like, well, I'm not going to play a 10-minute clip here. So like he had a lot to say about Purdy, but I thought it was funny because he says, Kittle says the media sees the baby face Purdy and speaks about him like he's a little kid wearing a JC's Penney's backpack. He goes, and he's not. I'm like, oh my God, like that's really how they act. And that's how other teams' fan bases act too. Like he's just some little dork out there wearing his JC Penney backpack. But he talked about when Purdy first, you know, joined the team, whatever, well, when he was drafted. He says there's zero hazing, but I do like to see how they react. I like to banter with them to see if they will talk back to me or will they act shy like he's George Kittle and he's been in the league for 8 years. And he goes on to say, on the first day of full practice in Jess, Kittle put an Iowa Hawkeye shirt in Purdy's locker to test the rookie's mettle. Purdy opened his locker, saw the jersey and said, did you put this fucker in here? Get this shit out of here. And then he instantly took it out and threw the shirt on the floor. Kittle laughed and said to himself, I'm going to like you. Respect. I love that. Oh my God. As I'm listening to Kittle telling Rich Eisen this, like, oh my God, I started cracking up because, like, remember when they first started, like, when Purdy first took over and the players are first coming out saying something about Purdy, and it was like, they told us the story about him going into the huddle and like told George to shut the fuck up or something, like, and like, as George is telling me this, like, you know, telling us that, whatever, like, that's what I'm picturing. Like, yeah, Purdy, he looks like such a sweet little baby face. Everybody says he dresses at Kohl's and all this, right? And then he's there like, who put this fucker in my locker? Like, throwing it on the floor. And I'm just cracking up like, oh my God, you gotta love the guy. What are your thoughts on that story?
Like, yeah, like Brock has some spice to him, you know, like don't try him because, you know, and I think it's funny that he, like, I can't picture him swearing even because he's just like this super devout Christian, and, you know, just imagining him like swearing that much is pretty funny. But I think, you know, little things like that just earn the respect. Like, you know, it earned Kittle's respect in Kittle's own way. You know, that's just such a unique way to. It's almost like Kittle does social experiments on other players just to see, like, psychologically how they react, and he's always trying people. He's funny that way. So he's an interesting guy, but so is Brock. I mean, I think yeah, he's definitely a very likable guy, I think. And that's just from what we've seen and heard of him, right? Like, we don't know him personally, but I get that sense too, that he kind of has like two sides of him. Like he's got a little alter ego a little bit. He's a different guy when he's playing football.
And we see that, right? Like, you see that sweet baby face guy, and then like all those, you know, memes and all this that we get from him while he's playing football is because he turns into something else, right? Like where he's like shooting up out there and like turning into Hulk and all this shit. Like, he like literally flips it. And remember that video that came out? Like, I forget if it was his first year starting or if it was last year, but like he went off to the sideline and was talking to his family before the game. And then like the camera's
he took a
like,
picture with them.
Yeah, and then like he turns around to walk back towards the field, and it just like turned into like this freaking
Stone cold.
Yeah, like
face.
Yeah, like that's Purdy.
He's locked
like,
in. Those are his two sides. Those are his
Yeah.
two like alter egos right there. In like split second, you see it. It's crazy. Yeah. He's like mentally tough. Like you could just tell he's got a different mode to him.
Yep, I love it. All right. We obviously know that CMC recently got married, all the guys that were there. Now, one of the biggest comments that I had seen when the pictures first started coming out of CMC's wedding were asking about Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it was just a matter of time, right, before Cam had something to say about it. So let's see what Cam had to say about it. And Christian's response back was awesome. I loved it. So let's go over both of these. Let me share this real quick. Cam, he's such a character, I swear. He said they needed a little color. They needed some seasoning at that wedding. All right. Nice. You can do it. Come on, you can do it.
Christian and
no, hold up.
Tied the knot, bro.
Look. Damn, see, Mac, I couldn't get an invite. Well, I know what. Is it because of the Brock Purdy beef? Was Brock there?
But you was the first QB though. Man, there's probably so many.
Man, you lucky I wasn't there, see, man, because I would have crashed that. I would have crashed it, man. Oh my God. It looked like they had so much fun, man. I don't know if I would have been able to go. Sometime. I at least wanted to say, oh, I can't make it. I would at least wanted to give you a present or something.
So then you see CMC, comments here. Me talking to Greg at the bar. This was a great night, but you know what would have made it even better? Greg, what? Me, if Cam were here. I haven't got a text back in 4 years. In fact, they just go green now. Greg takes a sip of whiskey. He would have loved it. 4 years, even on Instagram. Me, only once on there, but that don't count. Insert laugh track. He orders another round while they both sit in silence for 30 seconds. Christian, why don't he love me, man? Camera cuts to highlights of Cam and Christian together while with the arms wide open by Creed plays scene. And then Cam says, what number do you have? Share it here. And Christian goes on to share the number, and Cam says he hasn't had that number since, who knows, 2000, the early 2000s, whatever. But I thought that was hilarious. The video by Cam crying, that he don't get an invite, and then says, but, I probably wouldn't have been able to make it anyway. Like,
how the tables turn. That's crazy. And like, for one, I think Christian McCaffrey should be a storyteller, because that comment right there of him like talking about the exchange between him and Greg Olsen was very very entertaining. But yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy that like Cam never texted Christian McCaffrey for that long, because had he would have, like, Christian McCaffrey would have had his new number.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And you could just tell in the whole like response of like Christian's response that like it seemed like he was hurt by the fact that like he hasn't gotten a response from Cam this long. And then even in this conversation here, he's like, honestly, like, do you even still have my number? Which Cam ignored.
Yeah.
So I think that tells you right there, he deflected, and I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, you could tell like CMC was a little bit hurt by it.
Yeah, because CMC probably thought they were boys, and then once Cam got off the team, that was probably the last time he freaking heard from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, Like it reminds me of like, you know, you'll be close with, you know, at your job, you'll get close with a coworker or whatever and think, yeah, we're cool, whatever. And then once one of you stop working there, you guys never talk again.
Yeah.
Like, well, we weren't that cool. Exactly. Texting goes both ways, Ty. Shout out to Corey. We appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Corey.
Go ahead. Take it over, Steph.
Corey says, I'm on episode 6 and it has renewed my appreciation for Debo. Man, Brock and the offense was bad without him out there. Devontae couldn't stand Jimmy G. We're not that far in the series yet. Like, I watched the first 2 episodes, and already, like, in the first 2 episodes, I'm like, damn, dude, like, Debo's that guy. Like, I love Debo, and it almost, like, this whole time, like maybe in the last year, I've just been like, the writing is on the wall that like one of Debo or Ayuk is going to have to leave the team after the 2024 season. And I think it's going to be Debo. And like, when I look at just how good he is and I'm seeing, you know, things from his perspective and all this, I'm like, damn, like, I don't know if I want Debo to be the guy to go. And I don't want Ayuk to go either. Like I just want the both of them to stick around because they bring such energy. Like Debo is like, and I've said it before, he could flip a game on its head just single-handedly. Like he's such a special player. And man, yeah, I have a lot of appreciation for him and just the type of player that he is. Because I don't think there's anyone in the league that really matches the energy. There's probably just like a handful of guys who can match that type of energy. Yeah, he's just different. So I already have an appreciation for Debo, and then I'm sure when I see like the team's reaction when he wasn't out there, yeah, that will probably change some things a bit too.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch. So far with the Devontae about the Jimmy G thing is hilarious because just seeing the clips that are put out there on social media, it was just like, man, you know, Devontae was freaking going through it. Like, like he was probably hating his life, like wishing like what the hell did I do? Why did I come here? Like, and then that, like, I don't know if it was said in there or whatever, but I was seeing this clip going around saying that Devontae is actually the one that told them, like, you got to bench Jimmy G or else I want to be traded. Like, that's how bad it was that he didn't want to play with him. I'm like, that's crazy. That is crazy. And think, like, remember, like, all of our wide receivers and Kittle especially would always be talking up Jimmy G like he was the fucking man all the time. And like, I couldn't fucking stand it. Like, it drove me nuts because it's just like, why are you getting up there spewing all this stuff that ain't true? We can see you're lying. And now you're seeing how the receivers really feel about Jimmy G, like behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I feel for Devontae, but then I'm like, I remember it was his choice to go to the Raiders, and it was on the promise of the grass is greener on the other side, and that just simply isn't always the case, as we know.
Yep, that is. Jedi says the surprise of camp will be, drum roll, Debo gets extended before BA.
That's crazy. That would be crazy. That would be crazy. That would, wow. It'd be like a Twitter would explode. Like,
could you imagine?
Man, just for chaos. Like, I kind of just want to see it just for chaos.
Thanks. I don't. Steph, anything else you want to tell the people?
I know.
What you got going on?
I know that Devontae Adams went to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr. Like I know this, but that's the point. Like, the grass isn't always greener. Why did Derek Carr not resign with the Raiders? Because the Raiders are not a good organization. Not that Derek Carr is like worth extending, but you know, that he didn't have the foresight to think about all those things. What's going to happen beyond that one season that he was going to play with Derek Carr, right? So yes, I know he
Carr
went
should
there.
Have told him, don't come here. Like, If that's your
Yeah,
real
for real,
friend,
like-
why is he letting you go there to the dumpster fire with the coach?
Why is he letting you go there? It didn't. Let's just say it didn't turn out the way either of them thought it would.
Yeah. But yeah, any closing thoughts? Anything else you got going on?
Yeah, so I was gonna have another fan cave tour coming out today. I was like halfway through editing it, and then my computer like shut down iMovie and was like, your storage is full. And I'm pretty sure it
Oh,
deleted
no.
it deleted all of my edits. So I had to like woosah, center myself because that's really frustrating.
Mhm.
I had to step away from that for a second. Yes. So I'm gonna try to re-edit it again and hopefully get it out by tonight, but if not, it might come out Monday.
Oh man. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
tough.
I am upset.
Sin says those
Upsetty
man cave
spaghetti.
tours are really good.
Thank you, Sin. Yeah, they've been fun to do, and like it's crazy because I think this is the one I'm editing is the fourth one. They've all been like East Coast people.
Mhm.
The first two have been from Philadelphia. Then the third
Wow.
one was from Ohio, and then the fourth one I'm editing is from Ohio too. I'm like,
Dang.
what the hell? And I didn't even know where they were from before like we filmed them. So I was like,
The
this is just a
outside
crazy
of the bay are doing it good.
Yeah, man, they're representing. They're representing.
That's good. Especially like you love to see it over there in Pennsylvania. You love to see the 49ers repping.
Exactly.
Anything to piss off those Eagle fans and shit over there. they don't deserve any happiness after how they've been acting.
Yeah, Niners
After
East
how they've
over
been
there.
hating. But yeah, I am. Well, you guys know this is my last show of the week every week. Very unusual for me to have another show after this one. So yeah, I'll be back. If you're a WNBA fan, check out mine and Ty's show, Aces High podcast on Mondays. And it's really a Aces podcast, but we go through all WNBA, talk all WNBA. So yeah, if you're trying to get into the W or are already into the W, come by and say hi. We greatly appreciate having you. And yeah, chat, you guys are amazing as always. The best chat out there. I don't care what any of those other people tell you. And yeah, I hope you all have a safe, amazing, awesome, wonderful, all that good stuff weekend. Don't work too hard. Stay hydrated. Stay out of the heat. Sin, I know you're going to be floating on the water somewhere. So enjoy. Much love. Appreciate you all. We're out of here.